Chasin The Racin, powered by Colchester Kawasaki. Part of the Global Moto Group, we supply new Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Royal Enfield, Kawasaki, Sim, Mutt and Benelli motorcycles.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin The Racin, episode 163, and we're delighted to be joined by one of the most successful BSB riders in history. Welcome to the podcast, John Reynolds. How's it going?
Yeah, good, thank you very much. Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Does that still put a smile on your face when you heard that? Because I just saw your eye go, yes, I am. I am still the top man here.
No, it's been a long, long time now, hasn't it? But yeah, we had our moments, yeah, for sure.
It's obviously we're just talking about in the garden there, but for your... the year that you won in 2004 overlaps with my first experiences of BSB. So obviously watching on TV, and then I think we came down to Brands, Indy, and always used to go to Croft, with Croft being our local circuit. But yeah, it's in my head, I've got like very fond memories of those sort of days, and like you won the number one on the. For me, that's like one of the best looking bikes ever, the Rizzler Suzuki. I used to absolutely love it, but yeah, we'll get into all of that. But
did I get you into smoking, by the way?
No,
I just want to talk about advertising for a little bit. You know, Rizzler, like Rizzler papers and stuff like that. I'm just thinking, did he have a sudden urge to take up smoking? Because he obviously following John for years.
That wasn't the plan.
But just to start off with, just having a quick look at like your history and whatever, and I had a quick flick through your book there. And it appears that you're from good stock up in the northeast.
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, we were just talking about that. Yeah, my father was from Pegswood and near Morpeth, and I've still got family up there now. So yeah, we used to go up as a kid. In fact, that's one of the first places I started to ride a motorbike, was on the seafront, on the sands of what would it be? Blythe, was it?
Oh yes,
on the seafront there. On the sand, it was great.
I highly recommend you don't do that now, solely because some kid will push you off your bike and run off with it. It's getting a little bit rougher up there now. And I'm going to get kicked in next time I go through Blythe now.
Were you born up that way? Or?
No, I'm born in Nottingham.
Right, and always stayed around here.
Oh, Robin Hood country.
And your dad also used to race as well, didn't he?
He did, yes. Just after the war, he did sand racing. Then he did a bit of road racing, then he hurt himself, and then he was off work, and then he had to retire, really. But his brother, Uncle Tom, sadly passed away last year, but he was Scottish motocross champion back in the day. So it's in the blood, it must be, eh?
When you say road racing, do you mean like sort of TT stuff? Or
no.
Tarmac racing?
Tarmac racing, like short circuit racing.
And from having the go like on little bikes when you were younger, at what point did you start racing?
I was 8 when I first started. I had a bike at the age of 7, little Honda 50, and learned to ride that. But always wanted to go racing, and I managed to persuade Mum and Dad to build a bike for me. And because you couldn't buy motocross bikes back in the day, you had to build them yourself.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh God. Well, it was a long time ago now. Are you looking at me? You're taking the mickey now, aren't you?
No, I'm not taking the mickey. No, generally, I tell you what, that's never even crossed my mind at all. That I just generally thought like everything's so now you can get everything made for purpose, can't you? There's not many things you build at all now. Period. That's interesting. I just thought there was a market for like scrambling's been around before. Well, not before Tom. Oh, there's a question. Chicken or the egg? What came first? Surely scrambling came first before road like tarmac racing.
I would say so. Yeah,
it would have to be because it was definitely like grass before tarmac.
I think Cadwell Park was a motocross track before it was a road racing circuit. So yeah,
that either.
I say don't quote me on that. I said it now, but I'm sure that was the
documented
case.
everywhere, John.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I used to have a world championship there back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you know what year? This is pub
it'd be in the 50s, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Do you know Guy Martin's recently, like within the last year or so, has bought a very good motocross track just down the road from Cadwell, and he's looking to create like a world-class motocross venue there. I don't know how they're getting on with that, but
fantastic. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
it really would.
It's just in the valley. I forgot the name of the track.
Would be in the Wolds there somewhere, wouldn't it?
Thor's Way MX, but it goes by a different name. I can't remember the other one, but it is called, or the old track was called Thor's Way MX. But yeah, fantastic. I mean, I've seen videos and stuff. It looks awesome, like really good. Yeah. Did you get into motocross before tarmac or?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I was 8-year-old when I first started called scrambling. Then, by the way, no, it all started. I went around the back of the garage and I found a little petrol tank. This was when I was about 6.5, 7-year-old. And I came into Dad and said, is this part of my bike then that you're going to build me? And that was the start of it. As simply as that, I think they realised just how keen I was. But yes, I started scrambling and became British champion when I was 12, 13 in the intermediate class. And all my heroes were road racers, to be fair, apart from Roger De Costa, who was a world champion motocross rider. But yeah, I really wanted to be a world champion at something, but I realised I was never going to be a world champion at motocross or scrambling. So
why is that then? At what age was that, more importantly?
I'd be about 16, 17.
If you don't mind me asking, what, like, at 16, it's mad, isn't it? Because you get on a bike and you love it and you go racing with your dad and everything. So at 16, what specifically at that moment went, I'm not going to be a world champion at this? What was that, if you don't mind me asking?
I raced against a guy called Dave Thorpe.
You're doing it,
yeah. And I saw him for about 250 yards on the track, and after that he'd just gone. And, you know, he was something special. Went on to be 3 or 4 times world champion, 500, you know, proper nice guy as well. And, I mean, to win a world championship, you had to be as good as he is. And I was nothing like that, so there you go.
And it was at that realisation that you thought, well, I'll try something else then?
Oh, not really, no. I mean, I just carried on plodding away, enjoying motocross, because I was like you, Dan, Dom, sorry, love
I prefer Dan, to be fair, actually. I didn't correct you there, thinking, I actually prefer that, you know what I mean?
I just love riding motorbikes, and that was all it was, really. But actually, my actual passion was road racing.
Right.
My biggest hero was Barry Sheen, and
see, like what we have, as you know, like we have like the mini bike thing, and obviously even like people even skip motocross now and go straight into tarmac. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't even remotely accessible then. Is that correct in saying?
For youngsters back in the day, yeah, you couldn't go, I think, ride a road racing bike until you were 16, 17. Right. Probably older than that, maybe. So it was never an option. And not only that, I mean, it's just the expense of it all. Mm. You know, back in the day, I think a TZ 250 in the early 80s was about £25,000. Well, you know, you could buy a house for that back in the day. So it was just totally off my radar, if you like.
Jesus, wept. You're not going with a TZ tank to your dad and just go like, this is the beginning of my TZ 350.
No, we could never afford anything like that.
And what was the crossover to road racing?
Well, I finished motocrossing, right, and we had a couple of years off, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do because I wanted to road race but couldn't afford to. Mm. And then my dad went to a vintage race meeting one day, and he came back and we started talking about it. And it was like a light bulb moment. Boom! We've got a Velocet 250 MOV 1934 in the garage. The dad used to race just after the war, but he never sold it. He just kept it in the garage. And I said to my dad, so, "Can we not get this bike built and go racing?" Well, of course, all hell broke loose. Mum left home. She said, "No way am I going to go road racing." And anyway, I managed to talk Dad around it, and we built this little bike back up again. But unfortunately, when Dad was racing, he modified the bike. It was obviously a standard, a solid frame, no suspension apart from the front end, and no suspension on the rear. My dad was a great engineer, and he decided to put a cantilever back end on this bike. So it meant chopping the back off, put a swing arm on, and then the suspension and everything. But unfortunately, he never took a photograph of it. So we went to see the vintage people and said, "This is the bike. Can we run it as it is?" And they said, "Well, if you can prove that this bike was run like that back in the day, you know, you can do it." No photographs, nothing. We couldn't do it. So he had to chop all the suspension off and then put a solid frame, rigid suspension back on again. And we started from there. But that's how it all started, just vintage racing, really.
And were you about 17, 18 at the time?
20, 21.
Wow.
No, I was late starter.
Mm-hmm. But was your dad not? Did your dad have a spin on it after all that engineering
never
work?
did. No,
that must have killed him inside. Yeah. Why on it?
He just enjoyed watching me, I think.
Yeah.
It's mad in today's world when, you know, you've got like kids of like 12 and 13 racing Grand Prix level. It's mad to think that, you know, I mean, if someone came to you now who was 22 and said, "I quite fancy going racing," you'd just kind of think, well, it's impossible.
You know what? I just had this conversation yesterday with somebody else about asking me about the age and that, and I'd said if I'd gone and asked myself back in the day, what about racing? I'd have said, forget it. You're too old.
It's mad, that, isn't it?
Yeah. But having said that, I'd spent most of my life racing anyway, from the age of 8. So I'd got a rough idea of how the racing thing worked. And I honestly believe that riding a motocross bike is the best grounding for any road racer, really. Purely because you ride a bike in all situations. The bike's always out of shape, or most of the time anyway, and it becomes second nature. So, if somebody came to me and said, what's the best way to start road racing? I'll say motocross first, have a couple of years at that, learn your trade, and then go on to road racing.
I tell you what, we've always got a daft question on the show. We've got a term called motocross dad. When like dads are shouting at their kids. What was your old man like with you then?
I never did.
No,
never. No.
Right.
No. In fact, there was one particular time when I was riding a 600 in the British Championship. The first round I went to, I was a second off the pace, but ended up 20th. And on the way home, I said to my dad, I don't think I'm cut out for this, And that's the first time he actually gave me some encouragement. He said, just stick at it, you'll be all right. But he never, ever shouted at me and never said, I'm a waster. He always gave me encouragement. So, and that's, you can't knock that, can you?
No. And so on the bike that you started the tarmac racing with, was that some sort of, like classic racing that you started?
Vintage.
Oh, that's it's classic then vintage, Chrissy.
And then so what sort of year would that have been, like when you started racing, like
87?
87, and this bike was a 34. Built in the 30s. Wow, okay,
1934, yeah.
Yeah, so a good chunk of time after.
Yeah.
In today's world, that would be like riding a sort of a 70s bike, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
A 1970 a bike built in the 1970s. Dom actually races quite a lot of classic racing.
Oh yeah,
like the classic TT and all of
Never a Valicet though.
Yeah,
no, I'm not man enough for one of those.
Definitely. The bikes you ride, what sort of era are those from?
Oh, 80s. So like inline 4 Honda replica, like Halewood replicas, and
right.
Beautiful things. And like a best bike I rode is a 7R G50. Oh, they're beautiful. Like AGS bikes, they're just.
It's mad how there's a generation difference that like the bikes that were sort of new and state of the art, as Dom's now racing as classic bikes.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
But the mad thing is, they're not like your dad's Valicet was a proper, like that was built from the shop, stored, everything. That was what I would class as a proper classic bike. Now, like the bikes I race for the Davies lot, they're brand new. Every year they're brand new. The frames are brand new. The wheels are brand new. They're replicas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they can do the job at high speeds now. But like I say, it's long gone of the days of being able to pull out your bike out the shed and go racing on it. It just doesn't, that doesn't exist anymore. It's like your comment about, you were saying like 21, 22, if you just started into it, you're like, you're wasting your time to get to that level. It's ridiculous, isn't it? And things move forward.
So from the vintage side of things, what was I presume you did well on that, and then did someone get noticed, or was it a case of you and your dad decided to go like modern day racing, or how did?
Yeah, we did, I think 3 races. The 4th race we did was at Snetterton, and in qualifying on the Saturday, I think we went 3 laps and the bike just blew itself apart. It's the crank broke and it just exploded. And obviously we were all disappointed. We didn't race, we came home, and that was that. But then Dad said, look, if you're that keen, I'll lend you the money to go and buy a LC350, and then let's go and do the job properly. I think he saw that I had something about me. When I started off with this Veloset, and it was slow. Dad got it stronger and stronger, and I got quicker and quicker race by race, and ended up winning on the 3rd time out. So you could see there's a bit of potential there.
I tell you what, I must say, it's, if like I've only just met you, but you've got a really calm demeanour. It's what was your attitude like then? Was it when you were getting on a bike, even a Veloset, it's like, I'm going to have to try and win this, or was it let's just try and build into it, or what was your mindset at that point?
I had a game plan.
Here we got to talk me through this game plan. I must know.
I wanted to make a living out of racing motorbikes.
Right? Yeah.
And I say one of my heroes was Barry Sheehan. The other one was Ron Haslam. Okay. Now, lucky enough, Ron Haslam lives about 10 miles away from me.
Was that while growing up as well?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
right,
but I never met him up until the only time I saw him, I was on the back of a friend of mine aboard CBX Honda. Do you remember them 6-cylinder Hondas, right? And we're going down the bypass. turned off at Langley Mill just as Ron Haslam came past us in a Scimitar, old sports car, and so that's the first time I really met him out of racing, if you like. But just waved to him, and he waved back, obviously, because it was the first time that we'd probably seen a CBX on the road, because it was one of the first times, one of the first bikes out there. So, but anyway, a builder friend of mine, when I was motocrossing, I said I wanted to go road racing, and he said, "Well, I know Ron Haslam." "Oh, you're joking, do you? So you couldn't get me a meeting with him, just go and see what's the best thing to do and how to start up?" He said, "Yeah, well, I'll ask him." Yeah. So anyway, it turned out that he said, "Yeah, Ron, he'll have a word with you." So go and see him Saturday afternoon. So I went round, and Ron and Anne will sit around the kitchen having a bag of chips, and I sat down and had a chat with him, and that's how it all started, really. Then Ron sort of took me under his wing slightly. In fact, he said, we're testing next week with John Gainey. It was one of his nephews. And he said, "Going to Donington, do you fancy coming?" I said, yeah, I'd love to. So I went down there, and I didn't take anything with me apart from a set of leathers. I didn't have a helmet. I thought I'll just take a set of leathers just in case, you never know. Anyway, he said, "Right, come on then, John, let's see what you're made of, see what you like on." So he gave me this little, I think 125. It wasn't a proper race bike, but it was a little road bike with that drop handlebars and a fairing. So he said, you go around, then I'll follow you around and then see where we're at. So I thought, well, this is it then. I've got to impress him. So I just went flat out. Anyway, I ended up crashing on the third lap at Coppice. I went over the top of the hill and washed the front end out. You can imagine how embarrassing that was, really. Not only that, Ron had lent me a helmet. Yeah, and of course smashed it up. It all scratched. Oh dear. So I thought, that's it. He's finished with me. He's got to. But anyway, it turned out that the builder friend, when he got back, said, "How did John go today?" He said, "Well, if he doesn't crash his brains out, he's going to be a good little rider." So, but that was the start, really, of Ron and Anne mentoring me, if you like, to start road racing properly, and they've been fantastic friends ever since, really.
Yeah. Would you pass that advice on? Get the lap 3, chuck it up the road, impress
no, that's
John Reynolds. I'm just wondering how many people listening to this going, "This is how you do it, kids."
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the first thing I do if ever anybody wants to come around with me on a bike, whatever you do, I say, don't try and impress me, just do your own thing. But then we've got Chrissy Rouse here, haven't we?
I'm glad you brought this up. Yeah, a right little fangirl moment. Who wants to tell the story first?
God, you can.
Well, I was at a track day at Silverstone, and this guy came up to me and said, "Excuse me, you wouldn't mind following my lad around, would you, just to see if you give him any tips?" So yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, so I got introduced to Chrissy, and we got out pit lane, and within 2 laps he'd disappeared. So I came back into the pits, and which turned out to be your dad.
Who is that? Well, I've been wondering. Who is that? Is it Martin? Is it? You'd be laughing. If you're the only one laughing at that one, I'm joking.
And I said, honestly, there's nothing I can teach him. He's there. He's on it. And you could probably teach me a thing or two, actually. So, that was the first time I met you. You'd have been about 16 then, would you?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was just got us onto a 600 from a 125. And that was a real sort of special moment for me because, like I said earlier, when I first started watching, getting introduced to the sport, you were the top man at the time. And then I remember walking down pit lane and seeing you as an instructor and like almost being like... just impressed to see you, but then to go out on track and for that to happen, that was
mad, isn't it?
Yeah, but I do remember you didn't have tyre warmers on, so
oh right, okay.
Yeah. In all fairness,
no, thank you for that. You've been too kind, but no, we could see there was something quite special there, couldn't we?
Yeah, and to be honest, I was amazed you could remember that. I said on the way down to Dom, I said, "Oh, this happened," but like you definitely won't remember. So yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I do. Yeah.
And
to be fair, this isn't planted at all. It was literally within seconds of walking through the gate. I thought, I can't believe this. I'm surprised you could fit in the studio, Chrissy. I saw your head inflate. I'm joking with you.
So we've got the little introduction to on that bike with Ron, and then was it a case of did you and your dad race the 350 with like a little bit of guidance from Ron?
Yes, exactly that. Yeah,
and I presume you took to that well and started winning at sort of club level, was it?
Yeah, club level. That's right. Yeah, and then what happened? A guy called Vic Lamb. Right, and I raced for him. It was a Kawasaki dealership back in the day in Louth, and I used to say I rode motocross. I rode for Vic, so I knew him, and he knew Alec Wright, which is Colin Wright's son, dad.
Dad.
And so there's a bit of a tie-up there. Anyway, I was at Cadwell Park, and Vic came across and said hello, and we started chatting. And he said, actually, I know somebody that's got a TZ 350 that the rider he's got now is retiring, and he's looking for a rider to ride it. So would you fancy it? I'll put your name forward. I said, oh, God, yeah, proper race bike, you know what I mean? I'd only been racing about 6 months, so very, very lucky I got. Anyway, so this guy called Barry Coxhead phoned me up and said, your name's been passed on to me by Vic Lamb. He said, I'd like to come and see you and say hello, and if I like you, then there's going to be a bike here for you. And that's how that started, really. So I got onto a 350 and raced that the next year.
Is this at the equivalent of BSB sort of level?
It was the ACU British Championship, which he ended up winning that year. So,
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite a special moment. It really was.
I'm trying to think of a great way to word this question, and I normally never do. So I'm just trying to think, was this going all to plan? You were saying, I had a plan, I want to become a professional rider. And at that point, was it easy for you? Like just winning these races? Or was it, because we always discuss it on the show, it's about like natural talent and like skill set and stuff. Did you believe at that point, I'm better than everyone else?
No.
Like, now this is really interesting. So
Never.
you felt like, you talked me through it. You just generally felt like you had to work for it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, every single time I got on a bike, I wanted to win, for sure. And I'll be feeling ill every time I got on a bike. People used to think I was miserable, but it wasn't. It was because I was serious, and I just wanted the job in hand. I wanted to win, and so no, I never took anything for granted. I just had a plan. I just wanted to win races. And I thought, if I can keep winning, people are going to spot me, and the chances are going to come. And I always said, if a chance ever comes up, I'm going to take it, whether I think it's too big a chance or not. And that's really how I planned it.
So that year on the 350, can you remember any of your main competitors?
Oh, God. Nobody you would know.
Right.
No. I'll tell you what, yeah, they would. Steve Hislop. There's a name.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, never heard of him.
But he was only there for a couple of races, but yeah, Steve Hislop was back in the day.
And from the 350 back then, what was the natural step after that?
Well, again, this guy called Vic Lamb. I was racing at Cadwell Park, and this was a British Championship event. And there was Kawasaki were there, Team Green Kawasaki, and that was with Roger Hurst in race 1. Okay, well, Roger, I think, hurt himself in the morning of the practice day. So Vic, knowing Alec Wright, knowing Colin Wright, phoned up, well, he spoke to Colin Wright at the circuit at Cadwell, and he said, why don't you put John on the 600, give him a go on it? And he said, oh, I don't know. He said, I'll have to phone my dad. Well, his dad was doing the Grand Prix, motocross Grand Prix, so he was in Belgium. So he phoned his dad up, and he got back to us, and he said, Vic came over to us and said, Alec Wright wants a meeting with you. So I went over, and he said, right, there's a bike here for you this weekend if you'd like to have a go on it and see, don't do anything daft, just go and enjoy yourself. And I did well. And then I saw, he offered me a contract at the end of that year to race for them the year after. It would have been 89 it would have been, so... Yeah, so lucky,
So, 87, did you say? You still got in the tarmac?
Yeah.
So in 3...
Yeah, I was being paid to ride motorbikes, so I was absolutely mad. Wow. But again, this is all down to, I say, to Vic Lamb, really, because he knew people. And this goes back to when people say to me, what's the best thing to do when you start racing? The most important thing is never hack anybody off. In fact, Alec Wright said to me, if you've got nothing good to say about the product, don't say anything at all. And that stuck with me for the rest of my career, really. But yeah, it just goes to show that obviously I had not hacked anybody off in Kawasaki, and they offered me a job, and that's how my career started, really.
Outstanding. What were you doing prior to this? You building the bikes with your dad and stuff like that. When you left school, What, like, were you training up to do anything else as a fallback plan, or was it sod the fall up, we're going racing?
Oh no, it wasn't. No. I got a job at Phillips Signs.
Phillips Signs?
Yeah, going around in a van putting up for sailboards, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was 16, I was a driver's mate, and all we did all day was flying around the roads in this van, putting up signs and having a good time. And I remember one day the boss came to me after I'd been there for about a year. He said, I think you've got a bit more about you than just being a van driver. I said, do you want to train to be a sign writer? I said, no. So I'm enjoying myself to watching these vans. I was just turned 17. I'd got my license, and that was it. Can you imagine, driving somebody else's car all day long, flying around the roads? It was absolutely brilliant. But that lasted about a year and a bit, and I thought, you know what? Actually, so I went to the boss and said, that offer about being a sign writer, could I do it? He said, well, yeah, you can. He said, I can't afford to pay you now to learn, but if you want to stay behind after work an hour a night and learn, get to a certain standard, and then when you're good enough, I'll pay you. And that's exactly what I did. So I was a sign writer.
There we are then.
Yeah, without computers, with a brush and a maul stick and everything else. I used to love it.
I've just got this great image of you just about to get paid to be a sign writer, then the Kawasaki contract goes in front. Do we like that job now? Sod off. Yeah, I'm off to play on bikes. Start three. That is incredible.
I was paid to race motorbikes, but I didn't pack my job up. I carried on working as long as I could, and the boss, Tony Phillips, he was great with me. He had a daughter that was a good tennis player, so he knew how sport worked. And when I said to him I want time off work to go racing, he would let me have it.
Fair play.
Yeah, I'd have to work Saturdays back for it, but you do these things.
It's sort of flexible with it. So that year when you were riding for, was it Colin Wright running the team that year?
Team Green Kawasaki it was, yeah.
And which category was that?
It was 600 Super Sport.
Right, okay.
And then, but they also had Formula One and Super Stocks, and it was Super Stock then back in the day, which is like Superbike now.
Right, okay, got you.
Your transition between, so you've gone from the single to the Veloset, and then you two-stroke, well, hold on, even in the motocross would have been two-stroke and everything like that. Going from that onto the fours, back to twos on the TZs, were you happy on a four-stroke, or do you miss the two-strokes?
I love them all.
Yeah, you're not.
It didn't matter to me.
Normally, you can point someone into a corner and go, I'm a two-stroke man or a four-stroke man, but that did not faze you at all, just jumping on that.
No, yeah. Back in the day, you had to do that.
If you wanted the contract,
yeah. And the year on the 600, who was who were like the people in the championship back then?
Oh, Brian Morrison, Hislop again, Race Stringer. There's some good riders there.
And how did the season go for you?
Yeah, it went okay. The first year it was a big learning curve, and then they bought a new 600 out, ZZR 600. Big old bus it was, but I went out down to Bourne End to have a go on the bike, and it was a road bike, and it was proper nice thing. And I did come back and said to Colin, I said, I could win the championship with this bike. Yeah, what a stupid thing to say, wasn't it? But anyway, we did.
It did.
Lucky enough. So it was, it was good.
And how was your relationship with Colin?
We're good friends now. But back in the day, he was a taskmaster. He just knew all the buttons to press to get me to. He used to make me angry, really hank me off on race day, and
to get the best out of you.
Yeah, and I get on the bike, and all I want to do was smash it. Just I was just so angry. Yeah,
really.
Most of the time, yeah.
Is there anyone like that now? No, but that's a genuine open question.
What, team manager wise?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say there's anybody like Colin Wright. No. He's a proper nice bloke, but he just ruled with an iron fist, and he wanted. I mean, he was probably one of the most successful managers.
Yeah,
that's been in British racing.
A lot of people from either listening to podcasts or books, or even people we've had on the podcast, a lot of people say Colin massively got the best out of him and really have. I mean, I know Neil Hodgson's won. I know I've heard Leon Haslam talk before. Try to think off the top of my head. I can't think of the names, but I've heard lots of people say how he sort of, like you've just said there about getting you angry, whatever it took to get the sort of best out of you. But yeah, like you say, he was very, very successful, especially in the sort of GSC days. After winning the British Supersport, did you stay in Supersport? Did you then move up to what is now Superbikes?
Yeah, I mean, I actually started with Kawasaki running the KR1. I know you've got the KR1S, but so we did the championship on that. Then I went on to 600. Then they offered me a chance on the 750, but it was the old bike, and it was hard work. But then they made a modification to it, and one of the last races we did of the year, I think we went to Croft, and I managed to give the Nortons a good run for the money and put the bike on the podium. And that then opened. They saw that I could ride a superbike properly, so that was an offer to get on the superbike and just do full superbike year, and that was a big turning point.
Were you intimidated at all at that point with the superbike, or have you been intimidated with any bike throughout all this?
Yeah. I always respected them because they do bite back every now and again, don't they? I do remember one particular time at Mallory Park, and I was coming out of Devil's Elbow thinking, what a fantastic job this is. Next minute, boom, straight over the handlebars and a big crash. And that really brought it home to me that you cannot afford to think of anything else other than what you're actually doing at that particular time. Well, I can't anyway, So, it's pretty serious stuff. But I loved doing what I was doing. But I was talking with Neil Mackenzie, actually, a couple of years ago. And it would have been lovely to be like Valentino Rossi, where you can actually enjoy doing what you're doing. The first time I enjoyed doing what I'm doing, it hurt me. You know what I mean? So it was always dead serious. And
now that's interesting, though, isn't it? It's about like the persona of the thing, isn't it? How much did Rossi actually enjoy it?
well.
No, you know what I mean, though. Like that's another sort of thing that the character that he is and the legend that he's become. I wonder how much he actually.
It's mad. Even
you've just highlighted that point, because I've done stuff similar. You're like, this is amazing. You miss a braking marker, you lose concentration, and you're like, whoa, hold on. Very interesting concept. That how much did he actually enjoy it?
We've talked about it before, as in like people say like they enjoy racing, and then you say, well, which part of it do you actually enjoy? And then because when you break it down, there's very small amount of time where you actually enjoy the moment.
I can nail it. You know what it is? The drive home. After you've done it, honestly.
If it went well.
If it went well, yeah. I mean, if you've qualified pole, you've won 2 races and got the fastest lap in both. If you could bottle up that feeling that you had, you could sell it, and you'll be a millionaire overnight.
I tell you what, this for me, that I know the answer to my own question here, but what did you prefer more, your first podium or your first win?
Oh, I think win. It's got to be win. I had a podium pretty quickly.
Oh, that's all right. That's an easy answer.
Yeah, but the win didn't come that easy.
Yeah. Because I remember my first book took me forever to do it. I remember it was my first 3rd place, and it was just like, wow. And then the win's great after that, but your foot just climbing that hill, and you're like, oh, I'm on the podium.
My first, it took me ages to get a podium or a win, but it was actually the same result for me. So I'd never had a third before I won. I'd never had a third or a second. So it was like,
you just skipped it all.
I'll always remember. But I'd been racing for ages, and just been sort of mid pack. And I think part of the reason why it was such a nice day and a nice emotion is because it was so unexpected. I think if it was but speaking of how Rossi is, even now that he's retired, he's still absolutely killing it on the merchandise. If you watch any MotoGP, the whole grandstands are still yellow, and it's not like old stock either. He's the VR46 merchandise I think they turned over 25 million euros last year. It's like a massive concern. Even, do you know what I mean? It's amazing what he's, but he said, he's special because he can sort of relax and manages to be himself and be super successful. It's very difficult. And we were just talking before, it's very difficult on a race weekend when you're so focused and you've got so much going through your head, and then you get interviewed. You're not really it's almost a distraction. You know what I'm saying?
I do, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's like when you sat on the line and you've got a big race ahead of you, and people have been shoving microphones in front of you, and you've got to talk. And
it's easy as someone sat at home thinking, oh, they're a bit rude or they're a bit arrogant, or they, not think much of them as a person. But imagine like for someone who's, I don't know, like a receptionist, get as stressed as possible at work, and then someone and ask you a question, you'd just be like, oh, piss off, sort of thing, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
it's a great image. Sorry, it is good though.
I guess it's
you're
nice.
right. You're 100% right.
In this sort of atmosphere where you can sort of relax and just talk, you get to know the person a lot more than, like, say, on a grid or whatever.
I must ask, what was the most annoying part of racing for you? The most irritating bit?
I never was. I didn't think there's nothing irritating. No.
If you're
not winning, I think, was probably the worst.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, I don't.
No, it's just interesting. You're right though, because you're on the grid. It's part of the job, isn't it? That's the thing. You almost take that out of it because it is part of the job. You're on the grid and you expect to have a microphone in your face, but if you could take one little thing away from it,
no, because that's part of the job.
Yes,
and you've just got to live with it. You might not enjoy it, and it might be a bit in your face, but at the end of the day, if people are interviewing you, there's a reason for it, because they want to know what you're thinking about and how the day's going to go. So obviously quite successful. So no, that wasn't a big problem. I mean, I didn't enjoy it, but it's part of it.
Yes, it's like, I'm even just trying to think of an answer for myself. Like you say, it's all just wrapped up in one blanket, isn't it? It's just.
When was your first podium in what's now BSB?
In what now BSB?
Yeah. What did that used to be called? Did you say this?
It started because I was doing. I did 2-year Grand Prix, 2-year World Superbike. Then it came back to BSB, and I think it was a year into it that the BSB had run. So I think I can't remember the first podium, to be honest with you. I'd like to say it's the first one I did.
Was it just straight back? So before you got to what's now BSB, so was it after the 600 year?
600 Superbike. Yeah.
Oh, you went to a Superbike?
Well, yes, I rode the Superbike in 1992.
Yeah.
I won the British Championship with that. And then I did 2-year Grand Prix on a 500 Yamaha for Paget's.
Wow.
And then I went into, this is when I befriended a guy called Ben Atkins, who was my best friend ever, and he offered to set a team up around me to go World Superbike in 1995, again on Kawasaki's, and we did that and had a good year. The year after that, I joined Suzuki and did the World Superbike for the factory team. That didn't work out that well. In the end, I loved the job and it was fantastic and the bike was great, but I didn't do a good enough job for them, and I could see that chances are I was going to get the sack. So Ben said again, he said, look, I'm working with Red Bull, with the chances are we're going to set a team up in England, would you fancy riding? I said yeah, and that's how it all started back in the UK, with Ducati then. And we stayed there for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it's incredible how normally the pattern is the other way around, isn't it? So people start off British and then go in the Worlds and then into the Premier class. So you literally went from from the British at the time to the Premier class with Clive Paget. How did you can't just skip over that? How did that relationship form? How did
he just offered the chance?
That's incredible. So Clive just rang you up and
we had a chat, and he said, "There's going to be a bike here for you. Do you fancy doing it?" I thought, God, do I? And I can't believe the first time I went to Australia, I just got married. So this is the other thing. So I'd walk around the track. This is our honeymoon. This is where I took my wife show.
You smooth Java, yeah, that's it. I've got a new job. Come with us.
We're going to Miami, Phillip Island.
No, actually, it was Eastern Crete back in the day. So, and the best thing was we just walked around the circuit and walking back behind the pits, back up to the garage. And I nudged her. I said, Barry Sheen, look. And of course I was too embarrassed to say anything to him, and he walked past us and then he turned around and said, John Reynolds. I nearly fell on the floor.
Never.
Yeah. And he knew, obviously he was a very, very clever guy. He would do all his homework. He was commentating for Australian television at the time. And I actually met my hero, and he had a chat, and God, what a nice guy he was. They say never meet your heroes, but he was a proper nice guy. And anyway, so that was that. And then, of course, lining up on the grid, there's Rainey, Doohan, Schwantz, all these guys passing me going onto the grid. I mean, I think I qualified 10th or 11th, I think.
And at the premier class in the world.
Mad,
This is how much testing did you get to go?
Yeah, I didn't do a lot, but
This is like the high siders. Like, you know, you've gone from a lovely, quite borderline tame inline 4 to hopping on a fire-breathing, pelvic-smashing, killing machine.
There you go. High side moment. Yeah, that was the first race I did. And the first crash I had on it as well. High sided myself, big time. And I remember picking myself up. Obviously, you know what it's like. You're dazed, aren't you? You bang your head on the floor, and I look up and all the crowd's there. Yeah, you pommy wanker, and they're chucking bottles at me and all this stuff. Oh, mate, I thought, I don't need this. I've just crashed a flipping fire-breathing animal bike, and then I'm getting all this lot. So
how close were you to the crowd to hear pommy wanker?
Oh, I was close enough.
You wouldn't get that now, would you?
Oh, wouldn't you? I don't know.
That's a damn shame we don't get that now. That's proper atmosphere. Oh, cheers, lads.
Yeah, that's right.
Was that a little bit surreal for you being around the likes of the riders you've just mentioned?
I was a bit in awe. What to say, to be honest with you? Yeah,
Like sort of pinch me moments.
aye, yeah. But it was.
This is the thing, and this is what I like. I'm trying, like, the mindset of it is brilliant. You know, you had this determined goal, and you're very honest about how you took the job very seriously, and you got nervous about it. You know, sitting on that grid with, in the world, the best the world is delivering. What was your mindset there? You'll be sick of me asking this question. I think I've asked it 5 times through this interview. But were you thinking, I'm going to do them?
No.
Or were you thinking, get in behind them? Can I get in behind them? You know, what was going on?
I honestly felt it's just a privilege to be on this line, looking at all these people. And I never had any idea that I was going to beat them. You know what I mean? Which is not the right idea to go racing with. But, you know, the bikes I had, the tyres I had, were never going to match them. And the quality of rider that they were, you know, I still would never have matched what they are. I think one of the biggest moments of that was the music at the beginning. You know, when you sit on the grid and your helmet's off, then this lady sang the national anthem, the Australian national anthem. Then these skydivers are coming out of the sky with these parachutes, and this bloke landed on top of the bloody, what do you call it, grandstand, and fell off it. I thought, oh dear, that's a bit unfortunate. And
she's mid-song.
Yeah, aye. I think he'd lived, but it wasn't a great start to the race, you know what I mean?
Wow. And did you get to meet all of the top riders? I think, or was it did everyone sort of keep themselves to themselves?
Yeah, they kept themselves to themselves, really. I mean, you'd say hello and you'd have a bit past the time of day, but I can't lie. I mean, they weren't my best mates, you know what I mean?
Did you have any, what was your best result in them 2 years?
I think it was about a 10th.
Right.
That's outstanding.
But there's a lot of factory riders out there as well, and
like people can only dream of that. Like, at that point, were you on that grid going, I have made the dream is done?
No, because I wasn't earning any money. You know what I mean? It was just I was there. I was earning a bit, but it was only through private sponsorship and stuff like that. So I was living the dream, but not living the dream, if you like. You know, I was pretending to live the dream. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So.
It's a hell of a thing to tick off the bucket list. You know, like
people couldn't do that now.
Millions of people around the world kind of dreaming to be in the elite class, or to be to sort of do that and go all around the world racing. So was it directly from that you had the opportunity in World Superbikes with Ben Atkins? Did you say?
Yes.
And Ben is Paul Bird's ex-father-in-law. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so like Paul's son and daughter. It's their granddad.
Yeah.
And so he set the team up for you in World Superbikes for 2 years?
1 year.
1 year. And how did you have any better success at World Superbikes?
Yeah, we had a moment, yeah. Had a third at Brands Hatch.
On a privateer team?
Yeah. Had a third at Assen. And I got on the front row qualifying at Hockenheim. Yeah, we had a good year. It was all right. That bike was a good bike, though, to be fair. So I just come back from riding for Kawasaki, so I had a couple of contacts within the Japanese company. So then I put them in touch with Ben, and Ben went over to Japan, and we got, it was a good bike. It was.
It's a class, isn't it? Do you think that's like you could replicate that now? Like a privateer team just suddenly turning up and just doing what you did? At Worlds. Let's talk Worlds.
No, probably not.
No way at Worlds now. You could not replicate what you've done.
No.
Back then, in terms of the how big the sport was, what had a bigger following, the GPs or
No, it was World Superbike back in the day. Yeah, I mean, I think the GP thing was, tailing. It would, the Foggy job did a great thing for the World Superbike. I mean, 100,000 people at Brands Hatch and stuff. It was massive. It was all right. Yeah.
And so you only did the 1 year then, and then decided to do BSB.
I did 1 year with Ben, and then I rode for the factory Suzuki team in World Superbike for the next year. So that'll be 96.
Right. And then back to BSB.
Back to BSB, yeah, and then spent the rest of the time in BSB.
Oh, cool. So talk us through when you went back to BSB. Obviously, you've been racing at a higher level, so you came in as one of the top riders.
Yeah, no, that's the tricky thing about it. You see, I mean, you see these people a bit like, well, it don't matter anyway, but you go away and ride on the Grand Prix circuits and World Superbike circuits, then you come back to England and you go to Cadwell Park and stuff like that. I remember testing, so I'd done basically 4 years on the Grand Prix scene, World Superbike scene, riding all the best tracks in the world. And when I was riding for the factory Suzuki World Superbike team, we tested at Cadwell Park for a one-off test. I couldn't believe it. It was like a goat track, you know what I mean? So that's what happens when you've got riders that have been doing World Superbike, come back to the UK and I mean, they might have been winning before they went to World Superbike, but when they come back, it's hard work. That's why Scott Redding, when he came back, absolutely impressive. It really was. He dug in, didn't he, to do what he did. I didn't think he would, to be fair.
I'll tell you what, on that subject, what is Scott? How is Scott Redding getting on, in Worlds?
He's struggling at the moment,
massively struggling, with the BM.
So what's is there a change of contract, or is any I've actually heard not much. If you know what I mean
about bike, I think. He's just got off the Ducati where that was working for him. He's gone to the BMW, and for whatever reason, they're not gelled just yet. But I'm sure they will.
Hopefully, because what is, I tell you what, I'm that far off the pulse at the moment with what's happening with Worlds. Let's talk about that briefly. So it's a bit, who's doing what? So is Jonathan Ray winning it all at the moment?
No,
well,
no, he's not. No.
Right.
It's some of the best racing you've ever seen. To be fair, you want to watch it. It's,
God, I'm always at work. No, it's great because I end up bunging it all together at the end of the year. It's like my Christmas party for Chasin The Racin. We're always on the road. But so yeah, talk us through it a bit. So is it like who's doing what? And
well, Jonathan's there and always there.
Yes,
Bautista's very strong.
Yeah, Bautista. I think Bautista's leading the championship at the moment.
Yes, and then Top Racks had in his sort of standards, it's been a steady start the season. But
he's not had a win yet, has he?
He did. Did he not get one? No, I don't think he might have won one at the last one. I can't remember. But he's like on a string of sort of seconds, thirds, fourths, around that sort of thing. But he did sort of turn the corner at the last round. Right. But yeah, Bautista's looking probably the strongest at the moment, I would say. But yeah, it is very good racing.
And while we're on that subject, what was the crack with this Top Racks MotoGP chances? Yamaha dropped a satellite team in MotoGP.
I've not heard that one.
Yes.
Is that the crack, though?
Yeah, they have. So I think there was a small chance that he was going to go to MotoGP with Yamaha, but there's now no seats available. He did test the MotoGP bike the other day with Quattararo. They had
how did he go on with that?
Private test. Nothing got published officially, but I think Quattararo said he was very impressive. So, which he would be. He's a hell of a rider, and
talented rider.
When you did World Superbikes, who won that? Like the 2 years that you did it, who were the top riders and top names in it?
There'd be Carl Fogarty, Aaron Slight, Scott Russell.
Was Colin Edwards in it that year?
Colin Edwards, yes, of course, yeah. Oh God, the list goes on, doesn't it?
I know you'd been racing in Grand Prix, but even so, stepping up, it's almost across the World Superbikes back then. Again, it must have been extra cool being with all the top names in the world.
I don't know. No, not really. I was not too phased by any of that.
Did you just sort of feel like you should be there and you're one of them?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I didn't feel intimidated by any of them.
So that sounded like a very different, a different shift, like a shifted mentality from your GP days where you sort of felt just honoured to be on the grid with them.
Yeah,
be World Superbikes.
I think a lot of it to do was the machinery I was on. I think you resign yourself to the fact not all credit to Paget's, but for instance, one of the biggest crashes I ever had was at Hockenheim in the Grand Prix, and it was purely down to the bike not being quick enough, and that sounds stupid, I know, but it was the first year that Honda recorded 200 mile an hour down the back straight, and it was Shinichi Ito who clocked that time, and he came past me in practice, and he decided to do a plug chop just as I was ready to go on onto the brake. So he passed me down the straight, then just sat up. Well, of course, I came around the corner, and there's somebody in my way cruising, so I had to let the brakes off, try and move, and then hit the brakes again. And then I went into the gravel trap, and it cartwheeled. Oh, God. I remember lying there, and my helmet was all... Well, my visor was off and everything. I was proper beat up. Then I looked, and I went like that, and I was blind in one eye. I thought, oh, no. And I remember being carried off to the ambulance, and I lay in the back of the ambulance, so I kept covering that eye up like that, and I couldn't see anything. And I said to the doctor, I said, I can't see out this eye, is it a problem? Hoping he would say, oh no, you'll be all right. And they said, well, yeah.
You can't see out of one eye, son.
It wasn't ideal. So anyway, I kept doing this, and then I could just see a perforation of light. Anyway, lucky enough, the sight came back, but God, that was scary.
Did you have many big injuries throughout your career?
No, not really. I got away with it up until I had broken collarbones and broken wrists. Bits and pieces, but nothing too serious that stopped me from racing for weeks. It was the last year I had where the first test we did with Suzuki at Almeria. I had a big crash there, broke my leg in 4 places. So that was the start of the year. And then the last race I had was at Brands Hatch, and that's finished my career off, when I basically hit a wall and broke my neck, back, punctured lung, ribs. It was a pretty big, and there was a turning point. I lay in hospital that, a couple of days after, when I was awake and realised what had happened. And it was like a switch. I thought, that's it, I finished. And Paul Denning, my team manager then for Rizzler Suzuki, came in and started talking about next year. And I said, Paul, I've finished. That's me done. He said, oh, no, don't rush into it. I said, no, seriously.
Nurse, morphine. Lots more morphine. Yeah, we'll give it 10 minutes. Yeah,
it was. I said, no. I said, honestly, that's me finished, Paul. So, and that was hard.
I bet.
But then, the more I thought about it, then I thought, all the pressure's gone. That's it now. I've not got to think about next year. I've retired. And it was just a massive weight lifted off my shoulders. I spent 20 years being suppressed by pressure. You know what it's like, don't you? You're only as good as your last race. That's what my dad always said to me. And you're always chasing contracts. And I like a nice life where I can plan ahead. Well, in bike racing, you can't.
No,
You've got a rough idea what you want to do. But, there's a lot can go wrong when it does. It's, you're out of a job. And that's just the way it is.
You never got to sort of choose when to retire. The choice was made for you.
It was, yeah.
And in some ways...
Doesn't that a lot of the time happen, though?
Yeah, I think so.
That's the trouble, because the job's such a fantastic job, isn't it? You get paid to go racing motorbikes, and you're surrounded by great people. And again...
It's one of those, like say if that crash hadn't happened, but as you aged, your performance went down slightly, but you were still good enough to be in the mix. And so you weren't winning, you sort of knew you couldn't win, but you were getting paid and you were enjoying it. And then you do another year and you kind of... It's difficult to I think only individuals know when it's right for them, and it's different for everyone.
I didn't want to get like that where it tailed off. I was competitive all the way up when I was 42 when I retired. But I was as fit as I was when I was 20, but I just had to work harder at it. Just training harder, but I could still ride a motorbike.
And go on.
What's your opinion? When Rossi packed in, he was his last race was 10th place and stuff like that. What's your opinion, spectating now? Being through there and being in their situation, do you look at riders like that and go, no, keep going if you can, or do you think stop when you're ahead?
I think Valentino, he tried, didn't he?
Yeah.
And the last 2 or 3, 4 years, it started tailing off, and the podiums weren't there, and it was hard to watch, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it was a massive crowd pleaser, and everybody wanted to see him, and he was happy at that. So
And let me throw another example out there, and we'll talk about your little adventure around the place, the TT, and like John. Let's talk about John McGuinness. You know, do you reckon he should stop, for example?
Yeah, yeah, I do. But you know, you talk to him, he just loves it.
He loves it.
He loves it. Absolutely.
That's the thing.
And you can earn a bit of money out of it as well. And you know, he's a legend, isn't he? Around there?
Oh God, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it? I mean,
it's an individual thing.
It's got to be, isn't it? I
Yes.
mean, I did it once, and that was the only time I did it, and that's purely because it scared the living daylights out of me. To be fair,
Right.
How like what part of your career did you do it?
early on, yeah, 89, I did it, but there were 6 riders killed that year, and it was
What made you go to the TT at that point?
nothing other than Kawasaki offering me to have a go.
Really?
Yeah, and I used to go as a kid, and I loved it. And I always respected and admired people that could do the Isle of Man and stuff. And to be fair, when I was a kid, I sort of, because we used to go there every year with my mum and dad, I knew from the mountain down to the start line, right, and from the start line towards Ballacrane. But then obviously there's a massive gap between that lot, isn't there? So when I knew I was going to go racing the Isle of Man, I went out there in a car and did about 14 or 15 laps over the weekend. I pretty well knew where I was going, and I got the Joey Dunlop V for Victory video that back in the day we'll put in the machine and watch it, and I sort of knew where I was. Anyway, got on the race bike for the first time, got down Bray Hill, got towards Union Mills, and of course I'd arrived there so fast it was gone boom, and I was lost, and it just spent the rest of the time following the right lines because I didn't know where I was going. You know, there's a lot happening, as you well know.
Oh yeah.
The TT, and there's a lot of danger, and you know that if you do make a mistake, it can be the last one you do, and all these things were dinging around in my head. So yeah, I think the defining moment for me, realising that I wasn't going to do a TT again, was Steve Hislop came past me at Bagara. And Bagara is a hill down, as you well know, and then bottoms out of the bottom and then off towards Kirkmichael. And he came past me like 3 times faster than I was going. I thought, you know what, if that's what you've got to do to win a TT, you can keep it. I'll never do that. Yeah, seriously, honestly, yeah.
Because he must have been going, because obviously you're competing with these lads at like world level, like, you know, like Carl Fogarty go in there and stuff like that. Did he just think
That was impressive.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was.
Yeah, not many people do that.
No, especially now. Especially now.
So when you went over, was your mindset just to kind of finish the races, like not like you weren't bothered about being too competitive, and then you just
my mindset was I was going to get on that ferry coming home in my own van.
It's a very honest answer. No, it's right though. You know what I mean? It's you've got to have the right, you know, the ambition to do it, haven't you? So
And then
fair
when-
play to you though. A
when
lot of
people-
people wouldn't even try it. So
when people asked in the future, are you going back? Did you say, it's not for me, and like just sort of avoided it the rest of your career?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I didn't. There was no bravado that yeah, it's not for me. You know, I'd rather do short circuit. It was not for me because it would scare me to death.
Yeah.
You know, it was just I just totally admire people that do the Isle of Man and doing like 130 odd mile an hour around there. Absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah.
But you know,
Did you? I know it was scary, but did you get like a massive buzz out of it?
oh God, yeah. I mean, honestly, if there's one race I could have won, I'd love to have won the senior or a TT race of anything. But what was the question? Sorry?
Like, did you get like a massive
Oh, buzz.
out of it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I'm saying what I wanted to do is I'd love to have won a TT. And I do get it that if you can get round there 130 mile an hour, like you have, it must be absolutely mind-blowing to be able to go through corners at 160, 170 mile an hour and having the commitment and knowing that actually it does go right when you think it's going to go right. Where when I was there, I was going into a corner, it goes right, I think, but you know, when you're flat out, you can't think, you've got to know, haven't you? Yeah. It must be a mind-blowing thing to do. I'd love it, but I was never committed enough to go back and keep going.
Wow.
is there anything in your biking career that you wish you'd done, that you regret not actually having to go at?
No,
Tracks
really.
wise, or you just feel like you
No,
ticked
I think
everything?
I've pretty well, yeah.
That's brilliant.
Honestly, I've got no regrets of what I've done or what I haven't done. I don't think there's anything. I mean, yes, it would have been great to have won a TT,
Oh, no, but you've done the TT.
But I've done the TT. I wasn't prepared to do what you have to do to win. So
Did you ever do the Northwest or Macau?
no, I did Macau.
Right.
I did that in '89. Yeah, that was mad.
That is mad.
Yeah.
Did you find that more dangerous than the TT or similar?
No, not really, because I wasn't racing the circuit. I was just riding it, you know.
Right.
Having said that, Roger, I think it was Roger Burnett, he was the man in charge. He was the senior sort of man or rider back in the day. And we all sat down and had a meeting. This was at Macau before the race, and Whittam was there and a few others. And Roger said, he sat up on this stool and said, right then, lads, he said, dangerous place, not a race. It's just an exhibition. Yeah, like hell.
Yeah, bollocks to that. Everyone's...
The first lap, me and Wick got tangled up together, bouncing off bloody barriers. Oh, dear me, mad.
Class.
But, yeah, it was good fun. Yeah.
It's right though, isn't it? It doesn't matter what you do. There's no such thing as expedition in motorcycle.
No, definitely
Two
not.
blokes on a motorcycle. There's
No.
there's nothing parading about it.
With big egos, no, it's not, is it at all?
And so we're kind of after your GP and your World Superbike era, back to what's now BSB. That started in. Did it start being called a BSB in around 95-ish?
Yeah, 96, I think.
96.
96 the first year.
Which has coincided when you came back. And I mean, looking at the history books, there's only Shaky and Kianari that have had more race wins in the whole championship, in the history of the championship. All the riders, all the teams. There's only Shaky that's had more podiums. And one of the most amazing stats is out of all of the races you ever started, you finished on the podium more times than you finished off the podium, which is like, I don't know how many people can say that, but there's not many.
No,
There won't be any
it's
more.
mad, isn't it? But you're on about the wins and things like that. It's probably because I did it for so many years. You know, I retired in 2005. So there's a good 8 years there worth of racing. So
It's not 8 years though. It's not a massive amount in the grand scheme of things, is it? It's not like.
if you'd sit me down now and say this is what you could have done, would you want to do it? I'll say yeah. You know, so yeah, I don't regret anything, and I think yeah, we did a pretty good job back in the day, and we worked hard, but I had fantastic people around me, and I think I was very lucky to do what I did and be where I was.
So your first championship win in BSB was on the Ducati for
Ben
Atkins,
Red Bull Ducati, yeah.
Red Bull Ducati, yeah. And then run us through your BSB career. So started on that Ducati.
Yeah, we finished, I think, fourth. We were in the top five all that time, but we finished in 2002, having won a World Superbike race on that bike.
A wild card.
Yeah,
That must have been amazing.
That was probably one of the highlights of my career, to be fair. After Troy Bailey's myself had a cracking race, and I managed to beat him to the flag. So
Do you know when you sat at home now watching World Superbikes and you're watching them battle for the wins? Does it feel real that like you've been there and you've done that and you know what it feels like?
I get it, absolutely get it. And when they sat on the line, you know, I just know what they're going through, and I wouldn't want to do it again. You know, no, really, no,
Really?
yeah. No, I just know what you've got to put your body through and yourself through and your mind through, and the pain that you go through and everything else. And it's fantastic when you're doing it. But, you know, me being a bloke I am now in my late 50s, you know.
Do you know like how this week or next weekend there's a few people from BSB doing wildcards, or Hickman's doing one, I think
Mackenzie's,
Taz is doing one. The chances of a BSB rider going out and winning a World Superbike race as a wild card is it's not quite zero, but it's virtually zero in the dry conditions. Like the fact that you've done it back then, do you not find that just like mind blowing?
But the difference is, back in the day, the bikes we were racing in the British Superbike were identical to what they were using in World Superbike.
I still think if they had, even if like I'm sure Taz is on a full blown World Superbike bike. Yamaha have built them, and I presume Hickman won't be riding his BSB bike. I presume that'll be sort of World Superbike spec.
Okay.
But the chances of them,
yeah, well, that's it. But again, you've got traction control in World Superbike, where you don't have that in BSB, and I would imagine that'll take some getting used to. I rode the MotoGP Suzuki back in the day around Brands Hatch, and Bautista was riding for Suzuki at the time, and the first lap, we came down Paddock Hill together, up into Druids, round Druids, and then he just lit the thing up. This is the first lap. and just went. I thought, bloody cold tyres. Well, they weren't cold, they'd been on tyre warmers, but new tyres. And I got back in and I said, you know, obviously you did do, but how do you do it? What's that? He said, just believe in the bike. Traction control. He said, it's not going to do anything for you. You know, just, when you look at MotoGP now, there's never, or very, very rarely, any high sides, unless something goes mechanically wrong.
And if you remember, can you remember when Marquez and Pedrosa touched each other?
Exactly.
It knocked a sensor.
The rear sensor off the trial.
And he high-sided that corner.
As soon as you tapped on the throttle, that was it. Boom.
Which goes to show how much they actually rely on the traction.
But to get the best out of the bike, you've got to be able to trust it. And I think it's going to be tough for anybody that's in BSB that's not used to it, to get out and get the best out of the bike.
I get what you're saying. So if they were practicing on traction all the time, then fair enough.
I think so.
Have been more realistic chance.
Maybe.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think you're right.
Not that they're lesser riders. I think, you know.
I was about to ask that question. Do you think? It's so I would class your era as a truer form of racing, solely because it was cabled to the back tire, no traction aids whatsoever, a bit more on the chassis side of things. But everything adapts and breathes, doesn't it? It's you can't label that down as they're better than them and vice versa. No. You just ride it to your max.
So after the Red Bull Ducati days, so you did you say you were fourth in the first year and then won the next year?
No, I think we didn't win. I started in '97, and we didn't win till 2002. So it was quite a big haul. And Ben Atkins and Red Bull and everybody else put in hundreds of thousands of pounds to try and get that win for the championship, and we finally did. And then that was it, really. I just got a sense that at the end of that year, Ben was getting a bit disillusioned with racing, and I could see that the questions I was asking Ben weren't the answers I wanted, as in commitment and stuff. So in the meantime, Paul Denning had a chat and offered a chance to race the Suzuki for them for present.
Do you know, from the year that you won on the Ducati, have you got any special memorabilia or anything? Did you keep anything from that year?
Well, I've got all the old team clothing.
Have you?
Yeah. I never shook anything away. I've got the leathers and bits and pieces. I wish I'd kept a bike. But
I bet, it'd be worth a few quid that now.
Yeah.
But I think those bikes were actually sold to Paul Bird, and he ran them the following year under under his things, and I think they had a bit of a disaster with them.
Okay. I know. I think IFC were part of it. I think Ray Stringer was involved in a company that wanted our bikes. I know 2 of them got stolen and got broke into, and it was a nightmare. But it was all good. I remember I just won the championship on the Ducati. And I think it was Fast Bike magazine or somebody came up with an idea. Said, right, because they knew I was going to be riding Suzuki the next year, we'll go to Rockingham and you can have 10 or 15 laps on your Ducati and then jump onto the bike that you're going to be riding next year, and we'll do a comparison, see what it is. So of course I rode the Ducati and just fit like a glove. Everything about it was just I'm part of that bike. Anyway, I jumped off that onto the Suzuki that I was going to be riding, bearing in mind that the Ducati had got horsepower right from nothing all the way up to the top. Jumped on the Suzuki and there was no mid-range power. It was hard. It was just not the bike that I was, I could ride. And I thought, oh Christ, we're in trouble here. Obviously I didn't say that to the magazine when I got off it, but that just goes to show that what we had when the GSXR first came out, and how Crescent Suzuki and the team evolved to make that bike a race-winning bike was something quite special, and something I'm very proud of to be part of. And it was a proper challenge. It was good.
And did you have like a 2003 to sort of learn the bike?
Yes.
And then
I'll tell you how I did as well, because the first test we had was over in Spain, and my teammate that year was Carl Harris. And he just won the 600 Super Sport Championship, and he'd been offered the chance to ride the Superbike. So anyway, he came over, and he was the man that taught me how to ride this bike, because there's no mid-range power. So with the Ducati, back in the day, you'll come into the corner and then sit the bike up and then drive it out. But with the Suzuki, with no mid-range, you had to get on the power as the thing was fully leant over, so that hopefully when it was up there, it would come into its power band and go.
you said the word hope. That's a very
well, that's it.
Hopefully
Well,
it was there. That's some riding.
Without traction control, you start winding a bike up on its side. We know what's going to happen, or could potentially happen. But so fair play it was Carl. He was a couple of seconds a lot quicker than me, but I thought, well, if I'm going to get to master this bike, I'm going to have to swallow my pride and learn from a young lad. And that's what I did. Just took him behind him and then started working out, if you do that and do that, and then it all comes together. But that was my biggest problem with the Suzuki when I first got on it, was lack of power in the middle, in the mid-range. So the team worked on that to get a lot more mid-range power. And then it came tractable and it became proper nice.
It's again, it must have been cool watching that team, as in like the Crescent team, win the World Superbike Championship for the first year last year. After all of those years and sort of working with. It would have
been nice to have been on a Suzuki, but I was one of the first people to congratulate Paul. I gave him a call, and I just know what a quality team they are, and they did it, didn't they?
Excellent job, yeah.
Because you're still heavily involved with Suzuki.
I'm involved with Suzuki, yes, not as heavily as I used to be. I mean, I was part of the race team's effort.
That was it. Yeah.
Now I'm a brand ambassador,
right?
So I still do bits and pieces for them and stuff. So.
Very good. But you got a brand new Suzuki in the garage, brand new track. Good man.
And on the drive.
Happy to. Oh yes, the car as well. There you go. You got to keep involved. So you're not tempted to get like a bit more. Well, back into it, really, or you're just happy?
If the chance came around that, I could get involved, then I'll jump at it, to be fair. Yeah, I really would. But what I don't want to be is a hanger-on, somebody in the garage that's not doing anything, and people are questioning, what's he there for? And actually, towards the end of when I was part of the race team with Suzuki, I was starting to feel that, I've got nothing to offer here. I'm just standing around and, okay, I'm watching what's happening and then going back and writing reports. But I got nearly to that sort of bloke that I used to think when I was racing, what's he doing in the garage? Why? And I didn't want that. So I'm quite happy where I am at the moment now.
Do you ever, like say when you're at motorcycle shows and stuff, obviously a lot of people from that used to watch BSB in that era or be like dying to meet you and speak to you and stuff. When it got to the point of when there's, say, like younger riders coming through that didn't used to watch BSB and stuff, did it sort of get to a point where like you almost want to say like, here's a DVD, go and watch, like this is what I used to be able to do? No,
I don't. But it is funny that I'm talking to riders nowadays. I haven't got a clue who I am, and they weren't even born when I won the championship. So you can't knock them for that. I mean. Back in my day, because when I was 7 and 8 year old, all my heroes were road racers, and I knew them all. And jumping and meeting John Cooper for the first time a few years ago. He was my hero back in the day. I was there the day at Mallory Park in late early 70s maybe, when he beat Aggo, and I watched that race. And then to get to meet John Cooper and to be his friend, it's special. It really is.
I tell you what, like you're talking about, like the time change, and is there anyone you're watching now in like let's go through all the categories, to be fair. So let's start with BSB, then Worlds, and MotoGP. Who is like your outstanding? He's the next thing in BSB.
What in recent years?
In today's championship.
Yeah. I'd say Bradley Ray.
Right.
I saw him. Honestly, God knows how many, 5, 8 years ago maybe. And he just stood out. He wasn't doing anything. He was, I think, on a superbike for the first time. And he was wobbling around in, 10th, 12th place.
That was on the Suzuki as well.
The red. Yeah, the red one. That's it, yeah.
Him and Quintoli were teammates that year.
Right, okay. I remember another guy, tall lad.
So there was Quintoli and Brad on the red bikes. Yeah. And then on the blue bikes back then, it was Taylor McKenzie and... who's Taylor's teammate that year?
The tall lad.
I can't remember who was on that. Can you remember who was on?
I haven't a clue, mate.
I remember Taylor and somebody else were on the factory bikes.
But seeing Brad, I think there's just something about him. I thought he's got it.
Yeah, he's got a great chance of winning the championship this year. I don't think he's been off the podium once this year.
No.
Like mega consistent. Every track we'll go to, he's bang on the pace, like riding great.
I mean, I was working with the race team when Brad came to ride the Suzuki for the first time. I think did he win the first 3 or 4 races that year?
He did.
He did a back-to-back at Donington.
In Donington Park, yeah.
Aye, and I got straight on to everybody at Suzuki and said that this guy's pretty special, and I think we need to start, looking after him a bit and try and get him on a MotoGP bike sometime soon. And the thing is, he did the 8 hour, and then that all knocked him for 6, I think, because he was riding with, I think, Bridgestone tyres at the time, and then he came back to, would it be Pirelli?
Yeah.
And I think there's such a big difference. I think it just messed with his head, and then jet lag got in, and it messed his year up. But no, he's special.
He did get a go on the MotoGP bike that year, as well as Michael Dunlop did as well.
Oh, God, that would have been incredible.
It's really bugging us, the fact I can't remember that. It'll come to us
on the way home.
That 4th rider, but yeah. So you signed for Paul Denon, and obviously a bit of a learning year, and then you won the championship in 2004. Like I said, I remember great years, and the likes of Kianari, Michael Yuichi, Kageyama. You were teammates with Kageyama then as well. What was he? I never really got to kind of know him or anything. Or what was he like?
Yukio?
Yeah.
Oh, he was a good lad. He was.
Was he a fun teammate to have? And nice bloke.
He was a nice bloke. Not a fun mate to have. No. He was. For instance, we're going for the championship. I'd got a good lead and a good chance of winning the championship. This was going into Mallory Park. Yukio had an outside chance of winning, but he was asked to toe the corporate line and just, not do anything stupid. Well, he tried his best to beat me that day, and I remember going into the hairpin for the last time, and he came alongside me, and he tried to make me force me into a mistake. I just remember coming out the corner and then just riding him to the white line, and he didn't speak to me after that for quite a while. But the thing with Yuki is he had a birthday party down south where he was living. He was living in Poole area, real nice part of the world. And so Suzuki and Crescent decided to throw a party for him. So I was invited down, and I thought, what am I going to buy him for his birthday? I thought, I know what, I'll buy him a nice bottle of expensive whiskey, and he can take it back to Japan with him when he's finished and have a tot every Christmas or every birthday and just think of me, So I presented him with the bottle of whiskey. Within half an hour, it had gone, the lot.
Never.
Yeah. And then 15 minutes after that, he was running about the house naked with the German helmet on his head.
Never.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen anybody go from stone cold sober to absolutely red in such a short period of time. He was just down the lot. Oh, dear me, yeah. He was a character, proper character.
Who's the best character? Who's been the best night out?
You know what? I hated Sean Emmett, right, when I first started racing, because he was riding for Fastbike.
Yeah.
And he was writing about, we're doing Grand Prix together, and he was the best thing since sliced bread, and he was slagging me off, and I flipping hated him. I really did. Anyway, it goes into Red Bull days, and then Ben Atkins announced to me, he said, oh, by the way, next year Sean Emmett's going to be a teammate. I said, no, you can't do that. I said, I hate him. He said, well...
Tough.
Yeah. It's not your team. It's mine. I own it. You're riding for me. Oh, bloody hell. Anyway, it turns out he became my best mate. Sean Emmett was the best fun you could ever have on a night out. He really is. Yeah. He's mad. Yeah.
Go on, how are you? You're smiling. No, there must be a mad story. What's the maddest thing he's done? This is your opportunity.
No, he's just done mad things. He chucked a television out of a bedroom window once.
You're joking.
No, I'm not. No. Stood on the table and knocked a load of glasses over. This is the same night, this is. He's just a rock star, isn't he?
Do you keep in contact with him?
No.
Do you keep in touch with many people?
No, not really. No, I think Neil McKenzie maybe is the one. And again, when we were racing, never spoke. He didn't like me. I respected him. I wanted to be his mate, but he just wouldn't talk. So, but when he retired and then he started working for Suzuki and working with the team that I was riding for, we became great mates. And then when I retired, the barriers, it's that barrier thing, when you're racing, you don't make friends because they're not your mates. The people in your way to stop you winning, aren't they? That's how I looked at it. Anyway.
Do you know, you obviously mentioned the sort of positive side of when you had your crash and you retired, and you said you'd been in that sort of pressure box for 20 odd years and all of the expectation and the uncertainty, and that you almost felt like that relief. Did you also find it difficult watching the race and not being part of it, because it had been such a massive part of your life? Did you find that transition period difficult, like sort of filling the gap?
Yeah, well, Shaky Byrne took my ride. And honestly, it was like when I saw him on the bike, my old girlfriend, he'd gone with my old girlfriend, and it was heartbreaking. Yeah, it really gut wrenching.
So worse than that, like you can get another girlfriend, but your bike's like.
Yeah, I get it.
But yeah. Did you just stop watching the race?
No, I was still involved. I just had to swallow it and just get on with it, really, because that's what it was. That's my new life now.
Yeah,
watching somebody riding my ex-girlfriend.
Like some sort of cuckold bit.
Class.
So, and did you go straight into a position with Suzuki, as in like straight back into the team, but from a like racing coordinator point of view or something like that?
Yeah,
and
then really.
For years just sort of been involved from the other side of the track in the garage, and then recently kind of is it only the last few years you've actually stopped being at the racing?
Yes, and I think COVID, I'm a test rider for Suzuki as well.
Not even now?
Yes, but we've not done anything since the last GSXR. So the last job I was supposed to be doing was with the Hayabusa.
Right.
But we got all checked out. I was off to Germany to do the 3-week test out there, and then COVID came, and then that was it. It was just...
I've just been on the phone to Michael Rutter on the way down here chatting, and I told him I was coming down to do this, and he said, I can't remember what year it was, but at some point he said there was a new Gixxer came out and he got a chance to test ride it.
Oh, you're talking Michael Rutter now, are you?
Yeah. And he said he went out on this bike and he said it was unbelievably good. And he came back in and he said, whoever's worked on this and set it up. And they said, oh, it's John Reynolds. So there's a compliment.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Yeah. I think he did say if I'd have had this bike, he wouldn't have beaten me as well, didn't he?
Did he?
Class.
But
Class.
Yes, nice fella, Michael. What do you sort of fill your other than test riding now and again, and like the role that you have with Suzuki? What else do you do to sort of fill your time these days?
Garden, really? No, I don't. Honestly, it's I'm retired. Really,
Quite like
you know what? COVID came in, and I got used to actually being at home, and I quite enjoy that now. I've got a couple of properties that we rent out, and that keeps us busy doing bits and pieces. So that's all good.
Oh, nice.
If you didn't become John Reynolds, the bike racer, what could you see yourself doing instead of that? Yeah, do you reckon you still would have been a sign writer?
I would, yeah. I've been a sign writer, but you know what? It was just in the transitional period where I was sign writing. So bear in mind, we work with people like Barrett's and Leach Holmes. So my job would be to get an 8x4 sheet, get it painted, and then set it out, mark it out, and then sign write it. And it was a work of art. I loved it. And then the boss came along and said, I've got a computer now. He said, these things just cuts out of vinyl. And anyway, so he would go home, he would cut all the lettering up for this sign, whatever it was going to be that we're putting on. We'll peel all the backing tape off, put some application tape on, stick it to the boards, scrape it off, get any bubbles out. And that was it. I thought, well, a monkey can do this job, So
sort of took the skill away from it.
Well, it did. I mean, the computer's done that to a lot of jobs. I know that, but it was heartbreaking, really, when that happened. But so I mean, I would have been a sign writer and just kept on going, and I enjoyed it.
Speaking of sort of advances in technology, and obviously there's loads of jobs like that over the years that have been computerized. The other day, have you ever had a chance to wear? Do you know anything about virtual reality?
Yeah, I do, but I've not yet. No, my son's on about it.
Well, when I was teaching, a lot of the kids would talk about going home, and I'd be, if I was sort of, you doing anything nice tonight, going out with your friends or whatever, and they would say, I'll meet up with them in VR VR, virtual reality, yeah, VR. And I'm like, oh, what's that all about? And I've never really understood it. One of my friends gave us a headset the other day. It's terrifying.
Is it?
Yeah, like where that's going to lead to and what kids are going to be doing.
So what could you be doing with it?
Anything.
Basically, you put these goggles on, and it's just like being here. So, like, say if someone put the goggles on, everything looks 3D.
Is it that virtual reality thing?
That's it. Yeah, you feel like you somewhere else, and then basically you can do. So I only had a little go, but you went on a roller coaster, and it was exactly the same sensations. You're looking around, and it just look, and then you're going with it, and you can, if you want to say, if you were in Nottingham, but somebody else was like in Newcastle, but you wanted to watch something together, you can both put the headset on, and in virtual reality, it feels like you're at a cinema, but you're next to them and you can chat to them in a working environment. Like, say if you needed a meeting, but people are all around the world, if they all had the sets on, you're like, you could all be sat at a table talking and presenting stuff and whatever. Or it's mad. It's terrifying.
It is, I could well imagine.
Because, do you know, Meta, who own Facebook,
right?
They've got this vision of the meta universe where everything, you can basically be what you want and who you want. You can dress how you like, and you can have property in the meta universe. And it's basically, it's like this is where the whole thing's going, but you'll be able to basically do anything you want, like anything you want, see anything you want. But it's not real life. It's I'm
exciting,
not sure.
but yeah,
I'm not sure if it's good.
I'm more hands-on really. Sort of doing it, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember, the first time we went to, I think Disney World or something. We went in this big dome, and again, it was like a roller coaster, and it was all over around us, and you could look around and see. So that's similar to that, I suppose, isn't it? Very early stages of that. Yeah. But it made me feel ill.
Yeah.
You know, because you've got the motion of going up and down, but you stood still and you're expecting to fall off a rock. And
I'm very, very scared about where it's kind of going and what the impact, especially for kids, because there's like social skills that you learn when you from actually being with people. That I think when you're doing it online in an online environment where you can look however you want and stuff. It can't be good in the long run, but we'll see. Maybe not the pot. Maybe
so
not
the next time we have you on, it's going to be at home with the VR on, and we'll be doing all this. So we'll probably save the hassle and nicking your Saturday afternoon.
We'll run something called a Patreon page, which it's basically like a social media where people can ask questions and stuff for the podcast. So you'll have some questions on here. So I'll just have a quick check.
Who was the most difficult? I'm going to ask you a question while they're doing that, and I'll probably end up nicking one of their questions. Who was the one rider that you pulled up on next to the grid and went, "Oh God, not him"?
Jim Moody.
Do you like some time to think about that answer? Would you like
really hard?
Yeah, God, it was hard as nails. And every time we tended to race with each other, we'd knock each other off. I mean, it's with Scarborough. Ended up going through a fence and down a banking because me and Jim Moody hit each other. And guess what? The bloke I lined up with at the Isle of Man, because he used to go two at a time, didn't they? Yeah. Jim Moody. Yeah. I didn't see much of him because he'd just gone. But yeah.
You've done a fair bit of road racing then. Which Macau, Scarborough, TT.
Yeah.
Did you do much at Scarborough? Was that like a popular thing?
No, Scarborough was the last year that it was actually a British Championship event.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, mad. Because it was mad.
It's a footway. The trailer's wider than that, isn't it? So it's. But right, what other road race have you done?
No, that's it.
The thing. Oh, there we are.
I mean, Northwest was spoke about, and Roger Marshall was my team manager at the time, and
that would have been good.
Red Bull Ducati. Well, he's a legend there, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
At the Northwest. So he said to me, "Do you fancy doing it?" I said, "No, not really." He said, "Oh, come on, it's a piece of piss." He said. So this is how he spoke to me. He said, "It's one straight hairpin, another straight hairpin. It's a big triangle." So he said, "Let's go over. We'll go and watch it this year." So I went over and
never got out the bar.
Well, yeah, no. But I took one look at that. I thought, no way. I mean, this is hard work. I mean, it's proper nasty track, isn't it? Well, it could be.
Is there, yeah. Ben, would you mind just opening the door a bit, just to let some fresh air?
A bit warm. We're down south here, Chrissy. It's 10 degrees warmer.
All the way down, Ben.
There you go.
Cheers, Ben. Right,
so
a few
questions.
A few Patreon questions. So, first one is from Andy Hosking, and he says, including life outside of racing, what would you say was your greatest achievement? And if you could change anything and do it again, what would it be?
My biggest achievement, probably staying married.
That's a fair comment, you know. It's a very fair comment.
To the same girl that I went out with at school, so that's that. Had a great son. I think learning to fly a helicopter and an aeroplane is probably
that's cool.
Because I think I would never be able to do that.
Wow.
You know,
Did you just go to a school to do that sort of thing, or was it a friend? Or
well, actually, me and Steve Hislop were doing it at the same time, the helicopter thing, and he beat me to it. He got his license first. Unfortunately, he got killed in one, didn't he?
Yes,
So, but anyway, yeah. So, you have to do a minimum of 45 hours flying time, and then exams and everything else that go with that. About 12 exams, I think. Yeah, I know. That's what I thought. I thought I'm never going to do this, but you know what? If I'd have studied as hard at school as I did to learn to fly the helicopter, I could have been a teacher.
Is it difficult? Is it? Difficult.
Well, it was for me. It was for me. I mean, just taking in information and retaining it is not the easiest thing for me.
Yeah. Well, and it must be a hell of a thing. I have heard flying helicopters like much harder than flying a plane.
Aye. Well, the aeroplane flies itself. The helicopter relies on a pilot.
Constantly balancing it, isn't it? Yeah.
Wow.
Make it sound like a flown one there. You know, so I know exactly
We'll have a running thing on the podcast where we'll always ask the guest the most embarrassing moment of the life. Have you got one that stands out?
Of the life? I remember the best moment of my life, right, was winning the World Superbike at Brands Hatch. Probably the most embarrassing was getting onto the podium and falling over, slipping. Honestly, fell flat on my arse. Yeah, couldn't believe it. So that was pretty embarrassing, as you could well imagine. I mean, the grandstands were absolutely packed, and
On champagne.
Yeah. Who was on the podium with you?
It had been Troy Bayliss and I think James Toseland, I think.
Wow.
And I bet them two are going, yes.
Yeah.
He's falling right on his arse.
Yeah,
Good
you know
lad.
Pommy Wanker came back out of it.
So, Jesse Mortimer, does it give you a bit of a buzz when you see a Rizzler rep Jigsaw on the road? Like Chrissy, I grew up watching you and Yuki-san. Is it Yuki-san? Is that what Kageyama used to be called? And that sky blue was everywhere. What's your favourite BSB circuit that they no longer go to? So the first one about it must be.
Well, it's a massive buzz.
You still see Rizzler stuff now.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, still have people coming up and saying, can you sign the bike and this, that, and the other. And it's because I think there was 50 replicas of the Rizzler Suzuki actually done by Crescent, and so there's a few of them about. Yeah, it's a big buzz. Yeah, the circuit that I most liked.
That's no longer a BSB circuit. I mean, there's quite a few that you used to race on, like sort of Rockingham, Mondello, Croft. Can you think of any others? Did you ever do Pembrey? That wouldn't have been.
That wouldn't have been on the calendar.
Yeah, I did Pembrey, but I don't think it was ever a British Superbike event. Yeah, no, I don't miss any of them. To be fair, Croft was.
Do you feel like it's been a good move to get rid of all of them?
Well, it's never a good move. I mean, the more circuits you go to, the better it is, because it evens out the capability of the bikes and the teams for every different circumstance. But Rockingham was just very, very bumpy. I remember we had 2 bikes and stolen from there as well.
Right.
Rizzler Suzuki's, not mine. They were Shakers, and they got ransomed, and we had to go and pay a big fine to get them back. So, not happy times there. But Mondello, good circuit. It was great to go over there to see, the Irish crowd and everything. There was, we had a couple of good races there, and
I think it would be great for BSB to have.
I think it'd be great to go back.
Well, they were using Assen at one time, weren't they?
Yes.
Still are. Assen?
No, it's not on the calendar.
Not on the calendar this year.
No, since COVID.
Well, they were talking about making a new circuit. Whether there was going to be the Circuit of Wales and there was going to be the Circuit of Ireland. There was going to be, there's always talks, isn't there, about putting a new circuit on. But where would you like to have a BSB race? Somewhere that's not on the calendar now. Anywhere in the world.
The Isle of Man. If there was a circuit there, the Isle of Man, it'd be great, wouldn't it?
Derby.
Well,
there's one.
Yeah, there could be. But I mean, if you made something like a Brands Hatch at the Isle of Man, I mean, you could.
Yeah, you're right.
It could never be sustainable, but it'd be great for the festival, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
would be, wouldn't
it? Here's a question from Tony Rolls. Welcome to the pod, John. Who was your hardest opponent in terms of overtaking, and what was your favourite track?
Favourite track would be Brands Hatch, although it ended my career. The hardest opponent, anybody that was beating me, really. I mean, I think James Hayden will be one of them, to be fair, as a personality as well. So we had a big fallout when he was riding for Red Bull. He was my teammate, or I was his teammate, whatever which way you look at it. And I put a pass on him at Open Park, and he didn't like it. And he fell out with me for a long, long time after that. Best of friends now, obviously, because we've both finished racing and that. But yeah, James was a very, very hard taskmaster. He kept you honest all the time. But then again, Yukio Kageyama, to be fair, all of them are, aren't they? I mean, the first thing you want to do if you're in racing, as they always say, is beat your teammate, because if he's beating you, then you're second fiddle, aren't you? So.
Kianari did he just come over when you were sort of racing?
He came over after Carl Harris moved on.
Yeah, on the HM Plan bike.
Yes.
So you raced against him at the sort of start of his BSB.
Who? Yukio's?
Kianari, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and he was my teammate. He came over to be my teammate.
Right.
Yeah, and there's also, we are forgetting about, who's the Spaniard?
Gregorio
Olivier. Right, he's a legend. He was my teammate when Yukio fell off and broke something. I think it probably his hip when he had the big crash at Cadwell. So we were at Thruxton, and Paul Denning said, Gregorio's coming over, he's going to be a teammate, but he's here to help you, to look after you. So anyway, he was struggling in qualifying, so Paul said, can he just get behind you in qualifying and just try and drag him up the field a bit? Anyway, I did. I don't think he out-qualified me, but he was next door to me on the grid, so he got onto the front row. And the second race, he was getting faster and faster. The second race into the last corner, as you're going into the chicane at the end of the straight, he went under Michael Rutter. Michael Rutter lifted up, went into me, hit my front brake, locked it, ended up crashing, massive crash, broke my collarbone. So that was, Gregorio coming to help us, nearly finished our chances of winning the championship. But yeah, he was a good rider, strong rider, hard rider. There's a lot of hard people then.
Again, that's the sort of the thought of someone doing that these days. Like, imagine if after the first round, Bradley Way had an accident and some guy from Spain came over that didn't know the tracks or anything and ended up winning the championship. Imagine turning up at tracks like Knockhill and Cadwell for the first time and then winning the championship that year. It was like, yeah, absolutely incredible. Last few questions. We've got one from Termu. Absolutely buzzing for this. JR was a bit of a hero for me when I was younger. His autobiography was great and always really loved the paintwork on his RIs as well. Insert helmet gag. My question for John, when everything was always about promoting yourself and promoting brands, I always remember John was respectful and professional. Was that side of racing difficult, or did you enjoy it as much as it appeared in the media?
No, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, meeting people. I'm a quiet sort of guy, quite reserved. I don't put myself out there, but people take the time out to come and say hello. I love it. It's great, and I do enjoy that. And again, if people didn't want to talk to you, it's a reason. It's because either they don't like you, or it's because you're not worth talking to. You know what I mean? And people have got questions that they want to ask me. I'll talk all day long, but so no, I loved it. I love promoting and presenting manufacturers to the best of my ability. And again, with the old Colin Wright saying, or Alec Wright, if there's nothing good to say about the product, keep your mouth shut, basically. And I've been fortunate enough in my career that I've not really had to do that often, because all the products I've had have all been top quality, and I like to surround myself with the best.
Mm-hmm. Well, have you got anything else to?
No, I think, honestly, thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely cracking. Obviously, it's hot in here, so I think we're all looking forward to getting outside and getting a bit of fresh air in. But honestly, thank you so much for your time, and I really love this one. Just to wrap a few things up. So, do you want to mention about next Monday? Nah.
We'll leave it.
Bit of mystery there.
Yeah. We'll talk about that maybe on the next podcast, the one after. But we've got the Bennett's Track Day is coming up on the 27th of July. So if anyone's there, it was sold out, but I think there is a few spaces. So if you can check the website if you would like to come on that. And I think that's everything from me. So,
Cool.
Matt, thanks very much for your time. I've really enjoyed coming on the podcast. We didn't mention it at the start, but you've never you don't really know about the podcast or seen them. So hopefully after this, I'll send you a few good recommendations and you can maybe enjoy it in your spare time. But yeah, thanks very much for your time. Massive thank you to our sponsors, Colchester Kawasaki, and to all of our patrons. And we'll look forward to catching up sometime soon.
Thank you so much. It's been great to see you both.
Cheers, John. Cheers.
Chasin The Racin, powered by Colchester Kawasaki, part of the Global Moto Group. We supply new Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Royal Enfield, Kawasaki, Sim, Mutt and Benelli motorcycles.